What's up, guys? Episode 2. As promised, today I'm going to talk a little bit more about nutrition around how to get shredded. But I also kind of want to talk about some more training stuff because I had some other things come to mind throughout the week and on some of my walks. So this morning I was actually walking my dog first thing in the morning, fasted, something we'll talk about. And I was just thinking about training and the difference between training for performance and training for like aesthetics or look, right? So, what is the difference? Like, there's a huge difference, right? Like, something that really made me realize this was training jiu-jitsu. And jiu-jitsu, you'll hear me talk about it a lot because to me, I look at jiu-jitsu as kind of like my benchmarker for, how fit I am, how healthy I am, because it's quite the spiritual activity, kind of like yoga. Like it will really reveal to you where you are like weak, where you are, not healthy, honestly, like just it'll expose to you like how healthy your stomach is, how healthy your joints are, your physical fitness overall, in just a very different way than most normal things that people do. But I'm sure that there's a lot of other activities that do this as well. Probably like other martial arts, maybe surfing, um, maybe like mountain biking, biking in general, things like that. But jujitsu is just something different. It's it's crazy because it really kind of tests your performance, right? Like how explosive can you be? How explosive over time can you be? How much endurance do you have? Strength, all that type of stuff. So, I would say like when I started jiu-jitsu as a white belt, I looked good, right? Like if I took my shirt off and somebody saw me, they would think, that I looked good, I think. That's at least in my opinion. But I definitely was like lean and shredded and, didn't look much different than I do now, to be honest. Like maybe look slightly bigger and a little bit more cut in some areas, but I was looking good. But quickly realized like I was not in that type of shape to perform at that like level that I wanted to at jiu-jitsu, if that makes sense. I'm not the biggest guy either, so like I had to, use a lot of energy, I guess, to overcome that part of me. Um, I had my advantages too, don't get me wrong. Like I was very good right off the bat just because of like how flexible and mobile I was and things like that, but I just noticed I kind of lacked that extra edge in my gas tank that I think I needed. I think I talked about this last week too. And I realized that like just because somebody looks good or has like big muscles or whatever, and you see this a lot in jujitsu. Sometimes you see a guy who looks so fucking good, and but he can't roll for crap. He'll get taken out by the little guy or the skinny guy or whatever, the guy who just does jujitsu more, because it's obviously a sport and all that type of good stuff too. But you notice that like just because you look good, you don't necessarily it doesn't necessarily translate over to performance, and that's not like a groundbreaking discovery by any means. Like something that people probably have known for a good amount of time, but it is like interesting to be slapped in the face with it. When you're rolling as a white belt and you're just getting smushed and gassed out and just humbled, and you just realize like wow, I'm not in the type of shape that I thought I was in. um, and that's kind of what really got me into kettlebells too, and I'll talk about that. So my whole like kind of journey, right, was like trying to discover how can I bridge these two like gap? Like how can I bridge this gap between performance and aesthetics? Because like you can on the other side of the coin, you can have a guy who looks terrible but he performs really well just because of the way he trains, right? Like you even see a lot of cyclists, they're in phenomenal shape, but they don't necessarily have the most aesthetic looking bodies, right? Like they're not packed on with muscle and they're not lean and shredded. They're lean, but they're not necessarily shredded. They might even be skinny fat. Like a lot of fighters you see are kind of like skinny fat. So you don't have to look good to perform good, and just because you look good doesn't mean you can perform well. That's basically what I'm saying, roundaboutishly. But there is a way to train both, though, is what I've found, because that's kind of like my whole journey is to find that. And I'm again not super groundbreaking or anything like that, but for me individually, I hurt my shoulder when I first started lifting weights, like in high school, going to college, and that has really impacted my life in the sense that, I don't think I'll ever be able to extract the benefit from, bodybuilding type of workouts ever again as I used to be able to, because my shoulder will never it will never really be the same in that sense. And not only that, but I don't want to do that, because that is kind of like what caused all the problems in the first place for me. So like how can I like still feel that like pump and like get that resistance training in that I need to achieve like the volume and the kind of hypertrophy that I need to build muscle and maintain lean muscle mass, while avoiding injury and actually enhancing my performance, enhancing my mobility, my flexibility, and all that stuff. So, again, a testament to the kettlebell, and that's why it's such a beautiful tool, because it lends itself to all of those things, and that's, in my opinion, how I am kind of thinking about my training now. To look good and to perform good is I have to like use the kettlebell obviously, but I have to also kind of extract from bodybuilding type of principles. I have to extract from like yoga type of principles, calisthenics, and you kind of merge these things into your training, right? And that's really what I've been doing. So doing a lot of kettlebells, but the type of movements I do are specifically either to kind of maintain a high heart rate over time, to maintain like a lot of time under tension and like force exertion, by my muscles, or calisthenics to kind of further instill that hypertrophy that you can really like squeeze out of calisthenics. That's a beautiful thing about calisthenics, is like even just doing pull-ups or push-ups, you can get such a big bang for your buck. And so you can kind of start to combine these things. So you start to do some of these movements in the kettlebell that yield that high heart rate. You start to incorporate the calisthenics in between. You start to superset. That's a huge kind of like centerpiece to my training style, is I'm never ever taking real breaks, guys. Like obviously in this whole video I won't take a break the entire time. That's because this is my like Sunday recovery podcast flow. But during the week, even like when I'm going hard and like going to failure in my sets, I'll take no longer than like 30 to 45 seconds in between. And that's because I'm supersetting too. It's not like I'm going right into the same movement. I'll pick a movement, pick another movement, and superset the two. And honestly, usually what I've been doing is maybe picking 4 movements overall, supersetting 2 of them each. So I have like kind of 2 main supersets. And I just literally just keep cycling through that the whole workout. And that way I can get really high volume and a lot of hypertrophy and keep my heart rate high the entire time. So an example could be like, on a push day, and this is where it gets tricky. This is where I'm still thinking through things, experimenting, and like really trying to decide when I incorporate my leg days. So like I'm pretty much doing push pull, push pull, push pull every day, 7 days a week, and on the 7th day on Sunday is the Sabbath flow, this flow right here that you're seeing. So yeah, so like an example could be like a push day could be, and I'm doing jiu-jitsu as well, so keep that in mind. So an example for me could be like on my jiu-jitsu days, I'm obviously going to take it lighter on the bells and the workouts. So I usually, me personally, because I know my body, I will usually couple my push days with my jiu-jitsu days, sorry. And that's because like I already have a very like defined, like naturally built chest. For whatever reason, I can build a big chest super easily. Like I don't need to like really focus on it. Like I've had a chest on me since like 8th grade, and I don't know why, but it's interesting. So I don't have to like focus too hard on that because of my genetics, and that's just how my body is, right? Everybody's body's different. We'll all have our like unique little thing that we have better than other people, or maybe we don't, but whatever. But for me, like my back isn't, I guess, like it's not like a weak point by any means, but it's just not as developed as my chest naturally, and that's how it's always been my whole life. So like me now, I'm focusing on my pull days more on my off days of jiu-jitsu. So I'll go to jiu-jitsu and then come right back and hit like a quick push workout. And I'll give you an example. And then on the off days, I'm going to do pull workouts and focus really hard on the pulling, and maybe incorporate. And this is where I'm really experimenting too, because legs is every day. Legs and core is every day with the kettlebell. So I'm pretty much working my legs and core every single day, but probably starting to focus on the legs a little bit more on the jiu-jitsu days. because I don't want to do them on the off days, because when I do go to jiu-jitsu, I don't want to be completely fried. Then it's just no fun, right? So, so an example for me could be like Monday I go to jiu-jitsu, come back, and I'll do like some short push workout. So maybe like 100 to 200 or so push-ups. And now that I have like this pull-up dip thing, I might intersperse some dips. So I might do like push-ups and dips as the calisthenics workouts, and then let's say snatches and squats for the kettlebell workouts. And maybe let's just say even just squats, because I keep it real simple in my jiu-jitsu days. So it really might just be push-ups and dips and kettlebell squats. And so I'll do one round of push-ups, nice and slow to failure. Then I'll do one round of squats in the kettlebell, and that's like one set. And then I'm supersetting those, so I go right back to one to the other. And then my next round, I'm gonna do dips instead of push-ups, and then superset that with the kettlebell squats. And then that's another round. And then I'll go another round with the push-ups, and then alternate push-ups, dips, and then keep the squats stagnant. And that's just me, right? Like that's just like a random workout that I'll choose, and that can be changed so much, right? Like that. So like that's one day. My next Monday push day could be something completely different. So that's like an idea of how you can kind of take these kettlebell exercises and intersperse them with calisthenics. And yeah, I just want to kind of touch on some of that. And how does that even like come back to the whole performance and aesthetic thing is, so here's the thing, is the way I'm training in that sense is I'm keeping my heart rate really high, right? And I'm using the kettlebell. Just using the kettlebell on its own is going to give you that performance edge in like training, because you're doing ballistics, mobility, endurance, strength, all that good stuff. So like for me, the kettlebell is huge. So I'm using that. That's number one, to kind of bridge that gap. And then I'm doing like these bodybuilder type of like focuses, but not so robotic, like arms one day, legs the next day, biceps the fourth day. It's like I'm not parsing out my muscle groups per se. I'm just like really focusing on the movement in the body, like the range of motion in the body. So like one day is focused on pulling and the next day is pushing. That's it. That's my split. And then in that sense, I'm like really focusing on increasing hypertrophy with those type of movements, utilizing those type of muscles like the biceps, the back, things like that for the pulling, the chest, triceps, shoulders for the pushing, legs and core again is almost every day. So in this way, I'm giving my body the hypertrophy and the focus and the volume that you need on a week by week basis, while I'm training my whole body in a functional manner, and I'm keeping my heart rate really high. And it gets really challenging. Like I'm maybe this week I'll actually record one of my weekday workouts so you guys can really see the hell that I put myself through, literally. This is nothing. What you guys are seeing here is like I'm just messing around with this little baby kettlebell. Like this 16 kilogram kettlebell is a little baby to me, and I'm just messing around and just kind of playing around with mobility, getting some sun. It's recovery. I'm not meant to go hard today. But the days that I do go hard is, Monday through Saturday, and it gets, I'd say like throughout the week I kind of wean, like I maybe start off kind of strong, and then toward, Thursday, Friday I'm a little bit, going a little bit lighter, but no matter what on Saturday I murder myself. I go as hard as I can, long time, at least 60-minute workout nonstop, and that might include a bike ride. So Saturdays are meant to like really crush myself, and like because my idea is like I have the whole day to recover on Saturday. I could take a Epsom salt bath, I can stretch, I can lie on the floor on corpse pose for as long as I want. I can breathe, I can walk around, I can stretch for as long as I want. I don't have to work. So Saturday I can just recover all day, and night I sleep, and then Sunday I'm fine. I do this little flow, and come Monday I'm ready to go. So that's like I was supposed to talk about nutrition today, but there's so much to talk about in training, and that's kind of like what I've been doing lately. I can't even remember if that's what I said last week, but hopefully that's cool or useful for you, any of you. And if you have questions, let me know. I'd love to dive deeper and just know a little bit more of what to talk about and what you guys want to hear. But like nutrition, let's start on that today. Might have to like wrap up early, and then touch on it next week. So I'll start off by saying this. I do believe in like intermittent fasting. But I haven't been fasting as long recently because I'm trying to pack on some more muscle, and it's simply too hard when you condense your meals like that. Because you need to get in a certain amount of protein. It's hard to get in that amount of protein in like one or two meals. It's possible, but for me, it's definitely possible actually, now that I think about it. Like I might actually like start to reduce my meal frequency because I just love fasting so much. It's just so conducive to like cognitive performance and clear-headedness and just feeling light and clear in your body. Like right now I'm fasted. It's 2:35 p.m. here in California. But so right now what I'm doing is I'm not really thinking about fasting. I'm thinking more about stopping eating around 2 to 3 hours before I go to bed every day. At least on the weekdays, I stop eating around like 5 or 6 p.m. So I give myself a long time, a good amount of time before bed. And then I wait at least like an hour or two after I wake up to eat, and I'm always working out fasted. So that's basically what I've been doing is, 2 to 3 hours before bed fasting, 1 to 2 hours after waking up fasting, and getting my workout done in those first 1 to 2 hours of waking. And then I'll break my fast usually with a coffee protein shake. I've been doing that a lot recently. I love it. Just pour some coffee in, depending on whether or not I really had a hard workout or whether or not I felt I ate too much the previous day before, or however I'm feeling, how sharp my abs look and feel. Like literally that's how I go off of it. That's going to determine whether or not I like add fruit into my smoothie or I just keep it coffee and protein. So I might just keep it coffee and protein and then like eat a lunch with a lot of protein and then like a dinner with a lot of protein and a little like smoothie at night, or right after the dinner. And that's like basically what the diet consists of. And my motto is to prioritize protein. And if you're trying to maintain a lean, shredded physique, intermittent fasting is the way to go. And making sure you eat the highest bang for your buck protein wise. So like, as much meat as possible. If you can eat a lot of meat and few carbohydrates, and do that twice a day, and it's good lean, or not, it doesn't even have to be lean, sorry. It's good like grass-fed quality meat, and maybe some fruit and vegetables. Like if you were to do that twice a day and load up on as much protein and meat as you can, you would undoubtedly get shredded, undoubtedly, and you'd build muscle. And I did that. I actually ate strictly meat for 60 days, and it was one of the best things I've ever done in my life. And it's not something that I would maybe recommend doing forever, like indefinitely, but it's something that changed the way that I think about food. It changed how my body reacts to certain foods, and it's just changed me forever. And it was an amazing experiment, and I'm glad I did it. But, that's really the secret. If you guys are wondering how to like build lean, chiseled muscle, it's high protein and not that many calories. So like the best way to do that is to eat meat. Meat has the best bang for your buck protein wise, meat and fish and eggs. um, and that's it. That's really the fact of the matter. And of course you want to get your other nutrients in there, but there's always these debates on what nutrients are necessary and all this and that. Nutrition is far too religious, but I'll get into a little bit more of it next week. There's so much to talk about, and I'll tell you guys a little bit more detail about like how I'm eating, what I'm eating, things like that. But, basically you want to eat like our ancestors ate, or at least close to it. You want to be able to endure long bouts without eating, and you want to prioritize protein. That is the two things that I'll leave you guys with. You got to be able to go long bouts without eating, and you have to always prioritize your protein when you do eat. That's it. Thanks for listening to the Primal Podcast. If you guys like this, like and subscribe. I'm going to keep doing this every Sunday. I don't care. Nobody listens. These are coming out. Appreciate you all. Peace.